The healing power of sustainability beyond green to wholeness. When we talk about sustainability, we often think about recycling bins and reusable straws. But what if I told you that sustainability is actually a profound journey of healing, not just for our planet, but for our hearts, our communities, and our very souls? I recently had the privilege of interviewing Felicia Hansen, a visionary entrepreneur whose work has completely transformed how I understand what it truly means to build sustainable systems. Felicia isn't just creating businesses, she's cultivating sanctuaries of healing in a fractured world. Her revolutionary approach shows us that when we center humanity in our sustainability practices, we don't just save resources, we restore dignity. We don't just reduce waste, we rebuild trust. We don't just protect the planet, we reclaim our humanity. Have you ever felt that gnawing emptiness, that sense that something fundamental is missing in our modern lives? We're more connected than ever through technology, yet somehow more isolated. We're surrounded by abundance, yet haunted by scarcity. We're told to hustle harder, yet we're burning out faster. This disconnection, this is the wound that true sustainability aims to heal. What Felicia Hansen has shown through her work is revolutionary. Sustainability isn't just about environmental practices, it's a journey of personal and collective healing that reconnects us to land, to legacy, to community, and to purpose. When the pandemic hit Salt Lake City, most people were just trying to survive. But Felicia, she was creating something extraordinary. From the trunk of her car, she began selling vegan candy bars, the humble beginnings of what would become break free candy. But this wasn't just another food business. This was a radical act of healing disguised as entrepreneurship. When everyone told me it was crazy to start a business during COVID, especially one focused on hiring people society had written off, I knew I had to do it anyway, Felicia shared during our conversation. Because sometimes the most healing thing you can do is create the space that you needed but couldn't find. Imagine that courage. Launching a business from your car during a global pandemic when conventional wisdom screamed, play it safe. And not just any business, but one with a mission to hire those with criminal records, those experiencing housing instability, those whom society had deemed disposable. In a world obsessed with credentials and spotless backgrounds, Felicia dared to ask, what if someone's greatest qualification was simply their humanity? Break Free Candy became more than a company selling sweet treats. It transformed into a sanctuary where people pushed to society's margins could find dignity through meaningful work. In a world that had labeled them as disposable, Felicia's business model declared them essential. This is what sustainability looks like when it's rooted in healing. It's not just about reducing waste, it's about refusing to waste human potential. And here's where it gets really interesting. By centering humanity over profit, Break Free Candy didn't just survive the pandemic, it thrived. It grew into a model for how business can heal both individuals and communities by challenging exclusionary norms that have become so normalized we barely notice them anymore. But Felicia didn't stop there. Alongside Break Free Candy, she established Sweet Hazel and Company, a cafe in Salt Lake City that further expanded her vision of healing spaces. This wasn't just another place to grab coffee. It was a deliberate creation of sanctuary in a world where public spaces are often unsafe or unwelcoming for marginalized people. During a time when food insecurity soared and community spaces vanished, Sweet Hazel and Company stood as a testament of what's possible when we prioritize connection over convenience inclusion over efficiency. From menu choice reflecting diverse cultural traditions to staff policy centered on mental health, every aspect of the cafe was designed with healing in mind. Customers found belonging alongside nourishment. Employees experienced dignity regardless of their background or history. We're not just feeding bodies, Felicia explained. We're feeding souls starved for connection, for recognition, for the simple acknowledgement that they matter. Think about that for a moment. In a culture that measures success by profit margins and growth projections, Felicia measures success by how many people feel seen, valued, and worthy when they walk through her doors. That's not just a different business model, it's a different worldview entirely. This is the first profound truth I learned from Felicia. Sustainability heals more than the earth, it heals people and communities. But there's more to this story. What makes Felicia's approach so powerful is her understanding that healing cannot happen in isolation. Our wounds weren't created individually, they were inflicted systemically. And so our healing must be collective. Our ancestors knew this. They thrived through shared knowledge and mutual aid. They understood that survival depended not on individual achievement, but on collective wisdom. Today's sustainability efforts must be rooted in this same understanding. Whether we're building community gardens, supporting policy changes that address environmental racism, or simply sharing seeds with neighbors, the path forward is one we walk together. This brings me to the second vital insight from my conversation with Felicia. Collective action is essential for lasting change. We see this principle at work in another powerful example, the Impact Innovators podcast created by Felicia Ford. This platform highlights strategies used by Black women entrepreneurs to create sustainable change across creative industries while empowering marginalized voices. In a world where independent creators face enormous barriers, lack of funding, limited resources, systematic exclusion from mainstream networks, this podcast does something revolutionary. It spotlights legal protections, authentic storytelling techniques, and pathways to support that don't require mass market validation. By sharing stories from underrepresented groups, particularly Black women founders, the podcast helps creators see themselves not as isolated individuals struggling against impossible odds, but as agents capable of shaping new systems rooted in care rather than exploitation. This is sustainability as collective liberation, where protecting intellectual property becomes an act of resistance, where authentic storytelling becomes a tool for systemic change, where economic independence becomes possible through community support. When we share our stories, Felicia Ford notes in her podcast, we're not just building careers, we're building economies where creativity is valued sustainably rather than extracted without credit or compensation. This approach shifts entire creative sectors toward equity centered sustainability, where everyone benefits, not just those already privileged with resources. But I know what you might be thinking right now. These examples sound inspiring, Essence, but they also sound big. Starting a business, creating a podcast, opening a cafe. What if you're just trying to get through the day? What if systemic change feels too overwhelming to even contemplate? This brings me to the third and perhaps most important lesson from Felicia Hanson's work. Small actions matter. Every act of care is revolutionary. When Felicia started selling candy bars from her car, she couldn't have known where it would lead. She simply took one small step, then another, then another. The healing doesn't happen all at once, she told me. It happens in tiny moments of choice, choosing connection over isolation, choosing regeneration over extraction, choosing to believe that another way is possible. This is the profound truth that can transform our relationship with sustainability. We don't have to do everything, we just have to do something. Plant a seed in a pot on your windowsill, compost your food scraps, teach a child about the birds in your neighborhood, join a community garden, rest when your body needs rest. These aren't insignificant actions. They're powerful acts of resistance against despair and injustice. Each small act builds hope and agency within ourselves and ripples outward to our communities. Each choice to care rather than consume helps heal the wounds of disconnection, injustice, speed, and hopelessness that plague our modern existence. As Felicia Hanson's work demonstrates, sustainability at its core is about returning to wholeness, healing the artificial separations between ourselves and the earth, between ourselves and each other, between ourselves and our own bodies. The cafe she created became known citywide not just as another eatery, but as an anchor institution, uplifting local residents emotionally, spiritually, and economically, all through everyday acts like sharing food, stories, and seeds. This is how one neighborhood project can ripple outward as customers become advocates, employees become leaders, and in neighbors regain hope, all through sustainable practice woven with love and respect. So, where do we go from here? What does this mean for your life right now? I challenge you to step beyond the comfortable boundaries of what you think sustainability means. Ask yourself, what wounds of disconnection am I carrying? What systems of extraction am I participating in? What small act of healing can I commit to today? Because this isn't just about saving the planet, it's about reclaiming our humanity. It's about refusing the narrative that we are merely consumers, merely workers, merely isolated individuals struggling to survive in a hostile world. When Felicia Hansen sells a candy bar from her car or serves a meal in her cafe, she's not just engaging in commerce, she's extending an invitation to belong, to matter, to heal. And her invitation extends to all of us. The truth is, we don't need permission to create healing spaces. We don't need credentials to start building regenerative systems. We don't need to wait for someone else to solve the climate crisis or the crisis of disconnection that underlies it. What we need is to remember that every act of care matters. Every seed planted counts. Every moment of connection ripples outward in ways we may never fully see. In a world designed to separate us from nature, from community, and from our own bodies, choosing connection is the most radical act of all. In a system that demands extraction, choosing regeneration is revolutionary. In a culture that glorifies burnout, choosing rest is resistance. So I invite you, no, I implore you to take one small step today. Plant something, share something, repair something, rest deliberately, and then invite someone else to join you. Because sustainability isn't just about what we preserve, it's about what we become. It's about returning to wholeness together. And in that return, we might just discover that the world we've been longing for has been waiting for us all along, not in some distant future, but in the soil beneath our feet, in the communities around us, and in the healing that happens when we dare to believe that another way is possible. Thank you.